Dear friends, welcome. Mysterious scars of the Earth, lakes of the planet. There are things that we never think about, taking everything for granted for natural phenomena. For example, lakes. They can be different, view from Bikuritats, clean and muddy from peat. They have different histories, different origins. Some are located in the mountains and are filled in the mountain from glaciers, formed as a result of tectonic processes many thousands of years ago. Others arose after the fall of meteorites and are, figuratively speaking, scars of the Earth. But there are also mysterious and enigmatic lakes that do not fit to the frameworks and into the usual theory. Look what scientists tell us. Scientists are sure that all lakes were formed naturally. And during the formation of continents and mountains, plateaus and plains, this is either a consequence of tectonics or karst failures, and/or a completely unique option, the result of a meteorite fall. It is very easy to prove the natural origin of lakes if there are no traces of an explosion or impact. And this is easy to determine by the banks, by the dumps. In a word, experts will not be mistaken here. It means the lake arose naturally. Sometimes lakes arise as a result of very strange processes, and they can be compared to the rise of yeast dough on the surface of which bubbles burst. Have you seen this? Probably. Other lakes arose after the soil collapsed and the depression filled with groundwater, because everyone knows about karst sinkholes. And right, by the way, some lakes on the contrary go deep, disappear, also after the collapse of the karst layer, and leaving a layer of silt, dead fish on the shore, and a hole in the bottom, leading to God knows what depths. However, and there are amazing lakes round in shape, as if drawn with a compass, or in the form of a regular ellipse, oval, outer the formation of which cannot be attributed to karst sinkholes. After all, in these places, according to official science, there are no karst rocks. In addition, consider one of the most important factors. Perfectly round or elliptical lakes and karst sinkholes are impossible. This is not jigsaw cutting. Where are the torn edges, cracks, broken lines? There is none, but lakes, there are many of them. And the question arises, where do these lakes come from? How did they form? Moreover, in Russia, there's a certain pattern. And the more such strange lakes, the fewer large settlements nearby, and the lower the population density. The few such lakes, and the more large cities and industrial centers. And the question involuntarily arises, how to explain all these oddities? And where do these clear shapes come from? Maybe they are also craters of meteorites that fell to the ground thousands of years ago. And remember Dexter. He perfectly read the direction of the wounded man's movement by the drops of blood found. The direction of the drop's fall and the movement are clearly connected. In the same way, meteorites. They fall at an angle and their trace, a scar on the ground, resembles an ellipse. And such lakes exist. The impact crater of such formations is called astroblum. But, oddly enough, there are researchers who are not satisfied with all these options, including the hypothesis of a meteorite fall. Why? Because it does not answer existing questions, for example this one. Why are these craters? And if we assume that these are traces of meteorites, located so densely in some areas, and they are not all literally nearby, 100 kilometers away in a neighboring region, studying the map of the Earth's surface, and then it is easy to track the paradox. Some places are literally riddled with round and oval lakes, and then they disappear. And what kind of selectivity is this? A meteorite swarm. Another question is, and where did the population of these areas disappear to after the fall of these strange meteorites? After all, here are old maps. Everywhere there are settlements, villages, inhabited places. And in our time there is emptiness and forest. And do not blame everything on urbanization. What kind of urbanization in peasant pre-revolutionary Russia? So we are faced with riddles and secrets again. Inquisitive minds of course, are looking for answers to all these questions. This is how humans are made. Travelers and climblers and fishermen. And they all refuse to believe in scientific theories because they see with their own eyes a complete different reality. Yes, and some of them put forward a completely different, fantastic theory. It sounds wild, unusual, moreover. And it contradicts everything that we learned in school, everything that everyone around us believes in. Therefore, venerable scientists refuse to even discuss this theory. They are not at all interested in arguments and facts. Look, here are frames from an old documentary about the peaceful use of an atomic explosion. In Kazakhstan, they created a reservoir using an atomic bomb. You heard right. This is how they tried to use bombs in the Soviet Union. This is a real past. The result will be a man-made bowl. And this thought haunts our researchers of round lakes. After all, one can assume that the round lakes, or let's say more accurately, some of these lakes, are nothing more than traces of an atomic bombing. Yes, these lakes are the scars of a war with the use of atomic weapons, and researchers assure us. Incredible, you will say. What war are they talking about? Why is there no historical information about such a terrible event? And where is the radiation? Where is the contaminated area? And there are many questions, but do not think that our researchers are stupid fanatics. And they have heard all these questions more than once, and of course looked for answers. And they found them. They found many interesting things. For example, in the layers that science dates back to the beginning of the 19th century, in the black mass of fire deposits, our researchers found cesium. We will not delve into the theory now. Those who wish can easily check, Eastman said. A cesium is a substance that is formed as a result of an explosion, and it cannot remain after the burn wooden huts. And strangely enough, there are archives with reports from local officials about the flights and explosions of unknown objects over Russian cities in 1830. And yes, there are such records. As for contamination, the explosion leads to the decay of plutonium into the same cesium and barium, whose half-life is not that long. And after 100 years, the amount of cesium and barium atoms in the soil is minimal. In addition, and let's not forget that our land has experienced many upheavals over these couple of centuries. There were floods and mudflows. So our ringing, radiation layers went into the ground. For example, 1.5, 2 meters, or even more. We remember old houses in cities and new doors punched through on the second floor. The question remains open. Can we believe in this theory, and how to find facts about such an event? What's such an event? And could it be that we simply lost the memory of such a terrible event? Or rather, not we, but the survivors. And maybe we are just the young growth of a vanished civilization, and the hairs of perished ancestors who were higher than us in terms of development. The hairs were able to restore some things, but not others. This is the question that has no answer. This is an unsolved mystery, but scientists ignore it. And there are only old maps on which there are many cities on Russian soil, many villages, and now there is a desert, a forest, and then no one for tens of kilometers around. Yes, you can cite the arguments of our researchers, in particular Kungrov, who carefully analyzed the ballistics, trying to check whether all these scars could be the result of a cluster warhead strike. And he was convinced that his theory is correct. You can also show pieces of glass and rocks and dunks, which could not have formed on their own. There were no such temperatures here, unless there was a war and explosions. And you can cite other arguments that confirm this theory, for example, some reason all the forests are young, namely, no older than 150 or 180 years. How so? Who wiped out the old forests overnight? Who walked the planet of unknown size and then mowed down not only forests? No, let me remind you of the classic of literature, Gogol. What did his nimble hero, Chichikov, do in the novel Dead Souls? He bought up the dead. You heard right. He did not buy real peasants from landowners, but only those who had already died, but had not yet been removed, so to speak, from the register. Stop. And where did the landowners suddenly, unexpectedly, get tens and hundreds of souls, not yet entered in the register as dead? And note, the time is the same, the beginning of the 19th century. But let's not put everything in one basket. Enough of what has been said. Round lakes and elliptical lakes remain an unsolved mystery. And for some reason, a science point, blank does not see the inconsistencies between theory and practice, and the opinions of enthusiasts are taken for nonsense. However, this is an old fuse, and the unofficial ones answer the academics in exactly the same way. The opinions of corrupt experts do not bother them. However, everyone decides for himself whose point of view is close to him. But secrets remain secrets. All the best, dear friends.